Yeah.
Good
He's also,
morning. We got the Republican professor here with Curtis in Texas and me in California. And we're talking about something that's on our heart today, taking care of aging parents in the home, having them live with you. Is this directly political, Curtis? What do you think? By the way, loving that background.
oh, thanks,
Love it.
man. Yeah, I don't think it's directly political.
Mhm,
It's not affecting politics as they happen today. But I
mhm.
mean, I would say there's something definitely cultural about it, and culturally speaking, that does affect politics over time.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of my take on it. I think we've lost something in our culture around
So
this.
do you feel comfortable telling us about your setup? I mean, you're speaking from experience, right? So you're from California originally,
Yep,
grew up in California.
born and raised.
You recently had a parent pass away.
Yeah,
Your
my
your
mom,
dear mother, yeah.
yeah, she passed away about 3 years ago now. Um,
Okay,
and
in California, right?
in California, yeah,
And you're in Texas, and you have 5 kids, right?
yep,
And the your dad uh came to live with you, right? So
yeah,
recently, right?
yeah. This was in the last year.
Yeah.
Dad was taking care of mom on
Mhm.
his own for 10 years.
Mm.
My mom had a stroke, and she, you know, got around the best she could, but needed a lot of help. And dad was her caretaker for 10 years. And then when she passed away,
Mm.
it, my family
That's
doesn't
a lot
really,
of loss. That's a lot of loss right there.
it is.
Uh,
And,
the
and,
first
and my
the
family doesn't,
disability, and then the long-term care, and then uh passing away. That's a
yeah,
lot.
yeah, it is in a fairly short period of time, really. Um,
Hmm.
and
How are you doing with all that loss? I mean, say nothing of your dad. I can't imagine that. But
yeah,
how are you
uh,
doing as the son?
well, I think for me, I think with the passing of my mom, in some ways there was some relief, um, because it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work for the
That's
whole family.
understandable.
Um, and sometimes people feel guilt for having that relief, and sometimes people don't. Sometimes people are connected with their emotions, and sometimes they're not. Um, I think I'm fairly balanced about it.
Well, the
I miss,
relief is on the surface, right? And
yeah,
then, but deeper
yeah,
down, there's pain.
yeah. Sure. I miss my mom and
Yeah,
things like that.
sure.
That's understandable. But then when I put it on the backdrop of my dad, um,
Yeah.
I think missing mom actually, in some ways, is a little easier for me than it is for dad. And then I'm focused on trying to help dad process some of this stuff. And um,
Well, it would be understandable if he had a harder time letting go.
yeah,
Uh, it's his wife. And how long were they married?
they were married 51 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, especially in
So
this modern age.
now your house, you have a house, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not a big house. So you have 5 kids and now your dad.
yeah. So it's like
How's that going?
6 kids. It's
If you feel like you can say something about that.
uh chaos is a good word to capture uh a lot of it. But I mean
And your
it's
kids are actually in school. They're not doing Zoom meetings or anything like that. They're
right,
physically
right.
in school, right? Because
Yeah,
it's a Republican
thankfully,
state. So
yeah, thankfully that our kids' school didn't lose their mind like most of the country
yeah,
through that. And
If Beto gets elected governor, that might change. But
yeah, yeah, Beto's bad for Texas. Um, hopefully hopefully that won't happen.
Yeah.
I don't foresee that. Although he is quite persistent. But anyway, yeah, so we're all here in the house. Thankfully it's not 24/7. The weekends are probably hard. Anytime
Mhm.
there's, like, we had a snow day, a couple of days off of school last week, so we had a 4-day weekend because of the weather. And
Praise
that
God.
anytime the whole family's here, it's difficult. So that kind of quashed the otherwise fun couple days. We did have fun. We took some opportunity to get family time, with
Okay,
those
so
2 days off,
talk about
but
your
it made
dad
it tough
living.
with dad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Talk about.
Yeah, our morning routine is different now. Pamela and I used to get up and we get up at 5:30 and have coffee and kind of debrief the day and here's what's happening, and get going, and maybe we'd have breakfast together. Well, that's all with dad now. And so it's not the easiest all the time.
He gets up with you. He gets up at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, dad likes being up when I'm up, and being
Mhm.
around, wants me around all the time, because I'm what's familiar.
Yeah,
And I understand that. So it's an adjustment for all of us. Um,
yeah,
it's
that's big.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it's a sacrifice, in other words. And what I hear you saying is this is a tender spot in your heart, but it's also a major sacrifice for you. So, that's kind of the heart of the moral issue here. I mean, if it wasn't a sacrifice, if you had a huge house, your dad was getting around fine, he didn't really need a lot of help at all ever about anything.
right,
Well, then what's the issue, right? So, but I think a lot of people don't think about this. You know, they don't think about old people, right? They don't think
right.
about what
Well,
what
they've thought about. I think that culturally we've thought about it for a long time, and we solved the problem, right? We started building all these communities that we can, kind of shuffle them
yeah,
off to,
right.
and that way we can stay in focused on our own lives and the things that we want, and we don't have to be distracted and be confronted with the reality of the way things are. We can
Well,
kind of.
the non well, but it's interesting. Certain ethnic communities that would be unthinkable.
Oh, totally. Oh yeah, Hispanic communities, African communities, and when I say African,
A lot of Asians don't do that.
Asian communities, Indian communities. It's very common. You
Yeah,
know, when I say African, I mean like my African, like real African friends, not my black friends that live in America, that born here and all that stuff. But
yeah.
I mean, culturally, you're right. They get it, and it's about
That's
relationship.
how it was always done, though, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that it's fairly recent that we don't just assume that the older folks are part of the family, meaning the same household.
right,
I mean, that's
right,
pretty recent, and it's kind of ironic that we have households. I mean, going back to Aristotle, you read the Politics.
hmm,
The first political community is the household,
right. That's right.
and that you when you're reading the Bible, the household is the ancient concept of the household is an elaborate thing. It's not this little suburban thing that Americans think about, you know. Well, at
Yeah,
least how I grew up with is grandma and grandpa live over there,
yeah,
and we have a different household. Um, the household is quite different. Of course, it included slaves back then, and servant. Slavery is an interesting topic we could get into. Not kidnap slaves necessarily, which is
right.
what we had here. Actually, in the biblical tradition, that was explicitly forbidden. Kidnapping was forbidden in Exodus 21. The 10 commandments are in Exodus 20, right? So can't, that, you know, for example, Abraham and Sarah, they had a maid servant, Hagar, living in the household, right?
Right.
And then there's all the problems with Ishmael and stuff. But, yeah, I mean, we have big houses now. I mean, I mean, I don't, but a lot of people in America, you have access to that if you arrange things a certain way. And it's interesting that we Americans, you don't see, it doesn't seem to be very common to just have your parents living with you. You think about that, right? You think ahead of that, you plan ahead for that. I
Right.
don't, maybe I'm missing something, but it doesn't seem to be what people think of. I don't know why. You think it's because of autonomy, or is because of the sacrifice, bumping into each other like you're doing with your dad in the morning?
Yeah, I mean, it could be any number of things. It could be the difficulties of relationship. It could be unhealed wounds from childhood. It could be, I think more often than not, it has a lot to do with just uh, maybe a narcissistic, self-absorbed uh, desire to pursue what you want uninterrupted and unimpeded, and not having wrenches thrown into things when you're, like we're starting this podcast. And I often behind the scenes am dealing with things that with 5 kids and a dad, dealing with things, hurdles constantly to make sure that we can stay on task, on my end, uh, and those are difficulties that people I think would just rather avoid if they're avoidable. There's a retirement home just up the street. It's about 2 miles up the street. It's real quiet. It's real nice community. We looked at it for dad, and dad was like, I just can't do this. And I said, well, if you don't want to do it, I don't want you to do it. I'm not about trying to make you live your life so that it's convenient for me. Like, what is that? I just couldn't do it. And I watched my dad do that with my grandpa. And my dad and I, for years, have talked about that already. So, in some ways, we were kind of prepped for this. Dad never planned on this. He didn't want this to be this way. But I always had in my mind, in the back of my mind, if this is the case, maybe it had to do with my mom, because I was like, man, dad's under a lot of stress. If dad dies, we got to take care of mom. How are we going to do that? I was always thinking ahead to what about, I'm always like, what do we do in this situation? What do we do in that situation? What's my backup plan? What's plan B? What's plan C?
Mhm.
Um, and I think that this is just one of the plans that I had in mind, that, worst case scenario, dad can't stay in his house, or dad gets hurt and we have to take care of him. This is what we would be doing. And so it's like any relationship. It starts with love, and love is a commitment. It's a decision, you know, um, and that's the way relationship is. And that's the way this is. We made a decision and we're committing to it and we're following through with it. Um, Now that doesn't mean that it might not change along the way. Maybe it becomes overwhelming. Maybe dad develops dementia and he's combative. And well, what do we do then? Well, we definitely are going to need some help, and it probably wouldn't be healthy to have around the kids. And so we would have to figure something out. I wouldn't say worry, but that's something that I haven't resolved in my mind, like how I'd handle that yet. But we have good people around us and good family and good advisors to be able to help guide us in those ways. And until we get there, this works. So we're looking at moving, um, and having to get a bigger space for sure. But it while it comes with challenges, it also comes with a lot of good stuff, a lot of great memories for the kids.
Like what? Okay.
Yeah, a lot of great memories for the kids, a lot of getting to spend time with grandpa and have moments and memories being created and stored that they wouldn't have ever had Um, they would have had if we'd put dad in a retirement home is they'd be able to go, oh yeah, that's where grandpa lived for, but what did you do day
Yeah,
to day?
you go visit him and you're interrupting his checkers game, or even worse, you're
Right.
interrupting him watching Jeopardy or something
His
like
TV
that.
show. Yeah, exactly. And you just sit there and,
Yeah.
like the way it is now, even dad's flourishing in new ways,
What does he do? Yeah, tell me about the flourishing. I'm interested in that part.
Yeah, so like every morning, my wife and I, we take the kids to school. She takes some of them to one direction. I take one of our girls um to another school. And so we both leave the house with the kids. Dad's up usually by then. And when I get back about 7:30, between
And
7
if
and 8.
dad's not up, you're hitting him, you're beating him.
Right. Well, I use a hose and just and hose him down to wake him up, No, just
No,
kidding.
he doesn't use an alarm, right? He's up,
Yeah,
like a
no,
farmer or
he
something.
farmer family, military guy. I mean, he's up. He's up
Okay.
at, sometimes too early and he goes back to sleep, but he's up at 4 or 5 in the morning, you know.
So
Um
normally that's how it is. He's already up and you don't have to wake him up.
Normally, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
He probably lately he probably gets up more like 5:30, but
So
yeah.
you're taking the kids, you guys are taking the kids to school. He's at home at this point, or he comes with
Yeah.
you?
No. Well, he very rarely will he want to get out of the house and drive with us in the morning. He usually likes marinating in the morning.
Yeah.
So then when I get back, first thing we do is morning prayer.
That's cool.
We go to an Anglican church, and I use the Book of Common Prayer, and we just follow the church annual schedule. In that system, you read through the Bible in 2 years, and it's set up, and everybody kind of, if an Anglican's doing morning prayer and following it, then we're all kind of on the same page. I don't know. I like that idea. But then we just go through it systematically, and whatever's
What
the
are you
reading
reading now?
today. Like this morning, we read Psalm. Uh, I don't have I think it was Psalm 92 this morning, and then we read Proverbs 29 and First Peter 2 or 3. I can't remember which one. Oh, actually, I have it here.
So it's not it's not literary chronology through the
No,
Bible, or it's not
interestingly,
canonically.
no.
You jump around and then
Yeah.
eventually you get
We
through all of it.
usually it's something in the Psalms, and then an Old Testament reading and a New Testament reading. I mean, that's how it is.
Well, what is it about the Bible reading that you find helpful with your dad?
Well, so I think that there's two things there. There's a background to that, and then there's the direct question. And I think the background for me is if you read one verse or a chapter, or you read 3 chapters, or whatever you read, I firmly believe that reading scripture and having some time in prayer is going to illuminate areas of your inner life and even considerations of your outer life in ways that you will absolutely miss if you don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to whatever degree you can fit in, I think you'll get a correlative degree, possibly even a larger return if you want, if you will, to of insight to what you encounter during the day or during the coming days. So that's why we make it a priority. And when my dad and I, when he first got here, it was just crisis. We were dealing with this, getting his medications right, making sure he was signed up at the VA out here, because he hadn't been in the VA before, but he needed better care than what he was getting, and we didn't know how to sort all that out here. because it was all new. So we figured we'll just, he can do the VA. We'll just consolidate there and they'll help guide us. And then that way it limits our choices, but it's also in a system that works. Right. And so we started doing all that stuff, and we kind of got to a point where Dad the whole time really didn't want to stay here. Right. And then we got to a point where it was like, this is, we're button heads now. And you're not, I knew he wasn't ready to be on his own. And I was questioning whether he could be on his own completely. And I still have that as an open question. At the moment, my conclusion is he needs some care because we have to give him his medication every day or he won't take it. He just forgets. It's not that he's belligerent about it or anything. He just forgets.
And the Bible reading helps that whole dynamic.
Well, so I'm getting there.
Prayer.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
So I was really at my wit's end, right? And literally at the end of my rope, and just and where I get like that, I tell God, he's got to, hey, this is where you need to step in. This is your job. I've done everything I can. And now you've told me that if I've done everything and I can come to you and ask that you'll help. So this is your job now. I've done all that I can think of. Yeah. And then right when I remember the moment thinking I've done all I can think of. And right then I went, well, I haven't been reading scripture or praying.
You mean with him? With him?
Yeah, with him. Yeah. And so I thought, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. We're going to do morning prayer. That's the only thing I haven't done with Dad that I can think of. And I'm running myself empty. So this is the place that God's going to fill me up. And I'm going to just trust God that you're going to show up. If I get him in the Bible, then you have to show up because that's your job. Right. Because I can't convert people. I can't fix people's souls. That's your job. I can only lead them to the water. You have to make them drink.
Well, we participate in that.
It's true. We do participate.
Otherwise, there wouldn't be evangelists, and there wouldn't.
That's right. But
apologists and yeah.
True enough. But as you know, the only good things that happen in any of us come from God. And so we have to let him do his work. So that's what we started doing. And I kid you not, like it's almost like,
how long ago did you start doing that?
We started doing this he's been with us since June of last year.
Right.
And I would say we started doing this about 3 months ago. Right? Just before.
So it's been long enough for you to notice a difference.
Night and day difference. He looks forward to it. He asks me, hey, are we going to do this? Like if I'm busy in the morning or something, we look forward to it. And
is it every day or is it just on weekdays?
It's every day. Every day. Wow. Yeah. So we don't do it Sundays because we go to church, but Monday through Saturday, 6 days a week. And it's made all the difference. Literally ever since we've done it. I mean, within that first week, Dad's countenance changed. We stopped butting heads. We started being a lot more cooperative and working through solutions.
Wow.
I mean, it really was like a switch got flipped. So it was good. It was good for us.
How many minutes a day are you reading the Bible, and then how many minutes in prayer, just to get an idea of how long this takes and what
I would say
the time commitment?
It's very structured, like it's very structured. The readings are already there and the prayers are repetitive. I read them, right?
How many minutes do you think for each?
I would say on average 20 minutes.
Okay.
Sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. And the more or less usually has to do with, my verbose talking.
Well, so the reason I'm asking is because maybe somebody's watching this and they're thinking that's a great idea. I'd like to do that with my parents or my dad or my mom that's living with me, or an aunt, an aging aunt, or
Sure.
disabled sibling or something. And what's the time commitment? Because it's kind of crunched. So I need to be able to figure out how to fit it in. So if you were to recommend a Bible reading plan and a structured prayer liturgy,
Mhm.
private liturgy, would you recommend the Anglican?
Oh, wholeheartedly.
How do people find this? Where do they get it?
Uh, let's see. You can
I mean, you
find,
have a hard copy, right?
yeah, yeah. I use the 1928 prayer book. Um,
Can they get it on Amazon
oh yeah, yeah. You can get it on Amazon, and you'd look for the
online?
1928 Book of Common Prayer.
Okay.
Um, uh,
And just so if people are not, if they didn't go to seminary, they don't know what Anglican means.
they're English Catholics. English Catholics. So we're Protestant in that we aren't a part of Rome, but we're very Catholic.
What's Catholic mean?
Catholic is universal. You know, it's just a word for
You
universal.
pray to Mary?
Uh, we don't pray to Mary. We venerate Mary. We think that she's important. You know,
Do you have the
um,
beads, the rosary? You do
no,
that?
no, no. We don't do that.
Pray to the
That's
saints?
Rome.
Okay.
Yeah, that's more like Rome.
Yeah. So when people hear the word Catholic, that's what they think, that you
They
pray to
think Roman
Mary,
Catholic.
you light candles and you pray to the saints and stuff like that.
But there's actually a lot of Catholics, a lot of different Catholics. You know, there's Coptic Catholics, there's Eastern Catholics, there's Roman Catholics, there's Anglican Catholics. You know, so Rome is kind of what is they've usurped all the word Catholic. They've kind of taken it on for themselves. But I always make the
Right.
distinction because there's still something very Catholic about our faith.
Yeah, and I don't know. I guess I didn't imagine this podcast to be denominational thing, but I think it's good to talk about, just to be open about where you're coming from.
Sure.
For me, I grew up Protestant,
Hmm.
and it was not liturgical at all, although, uh it was Pentecostal without people calling it Pentecostal. That's how I
Okay.
grew up.
Yeah.
People
Okay.
speaking in tongues, and that kind of thing. Um, very emotional kind of a church, not structure.
Mm.
There was a structure. There was the same pattern every time, so it was structured. There was like a liturgy in practice, but um, what I've always found interesting about Roman Catholic, the name Roman Catholic, is the word Catholic means universal. So
Right.
it's like you're saying particular universal church. It's a little odd because Rome is
Right.
a particular city
It is.
and particular, it's that Roman Empire way of thinking. Like everybody outside of the Roman Empire are barbarians.
Right.
That's how they thought.
Yeah.
They talked about non-Romans like Jewish people talked about Gentiles.
Right.
If
Right.
you're not Jewish, you're goy. Like the Greek word for goy, the Greek word for Gentile is ethne. That's where we get the word ethnic from,
Right.
ethnos. Uh, so the ethne, you go to all the nations and make disciples. That the word is ethne.
Yeah. Like chaff.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's why it's funny that the Roman Catholic Church, but the word Catholic, I don't typically use it. I know it's in the Apostles' Creed, but yeah, it's
Well,
fine. I mean, use the term and then, just define it, but that what you did. So
the idea of behind Catholic, the word Catholic is just all Christians everywhere. You
yeah,
know.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you are really a Christian, right?
Right. Exactly.
There's got to be a distinction between Christian and non-Christian.
Right.
Um, and if you are a believing Catholic, Roman Catholic is what I mean, then you are a Christian, as far as I understand.
Yeah, I would think so.
I think so. So yeah, that's a good idea to have that kind of set up with your dad.
Yeah,
Glad to hear it's making a difference.
it is
Awesome.
making a difference. It's great. Really enjoyed it.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe more people will do that. I don't
and
know.
I advise it. I mean, it's a good routine. It's if for no other reason, it's putting a routine there and that routine has made life easier for my dad, and that's made life easier for me.
Yeah.
So
Using religion to control old people. That's how this is going to be interpreted
that's
by
right. That should be
Democrats.
the headline for the video. To get people to read it. Oh, let me click on that.
Republicans caring for your aging loved ones, and Democrats are going to say using religion to
That's right. Religious cults
prevent
to
your
control.
aging parents from getting their AARP Democrat propaganda in the mail.
All right.
God bless you, brother.
Well, I hope so. Nobody else is gonna.